There's something nobody tells you about being resilient. You can be resilient for a long time, quietly, consistently, without drama, just showing up in the workplace. And then one day, without much warning, you realize you've been running on fumes for months. And the thing that broke through, the thing that finally cracked the surface, wasn't the biggest change. It was something smaller, something that on paper probably looked quite minor. For me, it was this: I didn't get to choose. Before I go any further, if you're new here, you might be wondering why there's no face on this channel. The honest answer is that the organisation I'm describing is well known in my city. People would recognise the situation, and while I want to share these reflections openly, I also need this job, genuinely need it, for as long as I choose to keep it. So I stay faceless. Not because I'm ashamed of anything I'm saying, but because this is what it looks like to be honest and careful at the same time, which, as it turns out, is also exactly what this video is about. My organisation went through a major restructure, and I mean major, the kind where everything changes: systems, culture, teams, locations, ways of working. It came into effect on the 1st of January this year, and in the lead up, I genuinely thought I was handling it well. People around me were struggling visibly, and I remember feeling almost proud that I seemed to be coping. I was placed into a role based on my history with the company. Similar area, on paper, a sensible decision, and I thought, okay, I can do this. What I didn't anticipate was that coping and accepting are not the same thing, because I have spent this entire year, every single working day of it, aware of one quiet, persistent thought underneath everything else I'm doing. I didn't choose this. Now, I want to be precise about this because I think it matters. It wasn't the restructure itself that undid me. It wasn't the new systems, the new culture, the disruption. I had braced for all of that. It was the placement process, specifically the fact that a small number of people in my organisation did get to go through a formal placement process. They were considered consultant, given some agency over where they landed. That didn't apply to my role, and I found that interesting. That's one word for it. Destabilising is probably more accurate. I sat with that feeling all year, and I think what it touches is something quite fundamental. It's not really about the job, it's about being seen as someone who still has preferences, who still has a professional direction, who still has something to contribute, and therefore something worth asking about. When that step is skipped, when you're simply placed, it's hard not to read something into it, even if nothing was intended. And here's what that has looked like in practice day after day. I get up, and before I even leave the house, there's a preparation that happens, a kind of internal marshalling, a summoning of energy just to walk through the door of the office. Not because the work is beyond me, but because every day feels like Groundhog Day, and I'm doing it in an environment that doesn't suit me. The noise, the volume of people, the sensory load of it all, and in a part of the organisation I would genuinely never have applied to. The work is important. My colleagues who love this work are right to love it, but it doesn't light me up. And that matters more than I thought it would at this stage of my career. I've been applying for other roles, internally, externally, all year, unsuccessfully. And when that happens repeatedly at my age, there's a thought pattern waiting to fill the gap. The one that says, it's because of your age. Even when I know rationally that there could be 100 other reasons, the thought still comes, and I let it sit there far too long. So that's the honest picture. Not a crisis, not a breakdown, but survival mode, which, if you've ever been in it, you know isn't the same as living. Recently, I've been listening to a thinker called David Bayer, and something he said stopped me completely. He offers what he describes as a simple formula: desire plus non-resistance equals desired outcome. And when I heard it, I thought, oh, because if that formula is right, then what I've been doing, the opposite of it, for the entire year. I have been in full sustained resistance, resistant to my circumstances, resistant to this role, resistant to this environment. And I've been carrying that resistance like dead weight into every single day. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting I stop wanting something different. The desire is still there. I still want a different opportunity. I want, if I'm being honest, one more real adventure before my working life ends. A role I chose, a challenge I leaned into. That hasn't changed. But what if the resistance itself is the thing in the way? What if I'm so focused on everything I didn't choose that I'm not open to what might actually be available to me? I'll be honest, I'm still working out what non-resistance means in practice for me. I don't think it means pretending to love a role I didn't choose. I don't think it means performing gratitude I don't feel. That's not authentic, and this channel is built on authenticity. What I think it might mean is this: what if, instead of spending my mental energy every day on the gap between where I am and where I want to be, I spent it on being present in the moment I'm actually in, not suppressing the desire for something different, not abandoning the job applications, but releasing the grip of the resentment, letting the day be what it is, doing the work well because that's who I am, regardless of the circumstances, and staying open, staying curious. It's a bit woo-woo, I know that, and I'm aware that's an unusual thing to say on a channel that is, at its core, about corporate working life. And here's why I'm saying it anyway. At this stage of my career, in what might genuinely be the final chapter of it, I refuse to spend what's left of it in low-grade hostility towards my own working days. I am still curious, I still want more, and I think that curiosity, that desire, is worth protecting, which means I have to stop letting resistance drain it. I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to release the resistance, not the desire, just the resistance, and see what happens. I'll let you know how it goes. If you've ever found yourself placed somewhere rather than chosen, or stuck in survival mode when you know you're capable of more, I'd really like to know how you navigated it. Leave a comment, and if any of this has landed for you, if it felt familiar in some way, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. That's the reason I'm still logged in.